Greetings, amigops. Welcome to Top 10 with Kyle and Mike. This week, as all weeks, one of us will be bringing a top 10 to the show. The other host will not know what the topic is. We'll discuss the topic, debate it vigorously, and by the end of the show, we will have a definitive top 10. But this week, it's not becoming that special. We've had a few guests, but this is a very special guest this week. This week, we have Kyle's sister, Erin, on the pod to bring us a topic. Erin, what is this week's topic?
Okay, this week's topic is top 10 outdoor summer kids games.
Oh, I like this a lot.
So, okay.
There are a few things that I'll have to explain because it gets a little bit more. It's a pretty general kind of category, so I kind of narrowed it down just a little bit to get a little bit more specific.
Okay, so I have some clarifying questions, but you go ahead and do, like, your brief, and then if I still have questions, I'll ask them. Okay.
So, the one clarifying thing is mostly that this kind of excludes, like, the everyday normal team sports. So, it doesn't count, like, football, baseball, hockey, like, stuff that are just...
like, organized youth sports.
Right.
But does the like neighborhood version of that count? So like street hockey or like
there are variations. Like street hockey does not make an appearance in my list because I considered it to be kind of like that. But that's where I think that there's room for negotiation because I think that could be more different from the actual sport than football is to football. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Like if you're
so there has to be some kind of like distinction from. It's not just you're playing an unorganized version of this same sport. Like, we'll talk about it more later, but like backyard football versus organized football versus like street hockey actually has some different kind of like components to it than organized.
Right. Whereas I think if you're getting together with a bunch of kids and you're playing baseball, you're literally just playing the game of baseball. Do you know what I mean?
I agree with that. Baseball is a little bit of an interesting one because like there's no disorganized baseball. There's obviously like wiffle ball and stuff. Well, like, You're not just like, you can't just play baseball without having a really organized group.
Right.
Interesting. Well, okay. Well, then I'll bring something else up later, but keep going.
But there are, we'll get into it, but there are, spin-offs.
Yeah. There's gonna be a lot of room for interpretation here.
Right.
I like that,
which is why I think it's gonna be fun.
Yeah. So summer sports specifically.
Yeah, we pretty much played all these sports as kids in the summer. I mean, it just makes more sense. Yeah.
And, so are we including, like, only games that you play, like, in your neighborhood or, like, in your front or backyard? Or are you expanding this to include, like, a playground game at school?
Ooh.
Playscape games do not count.
Okay.
Because I thought about that. Because I think that brings in a whole different...
that's a whole different world that you've opened up about.
Yeah, like dodgeball. Dodgeball's probably a good example. Like, dodgeball would not be in this. Okay, never mind. Keep going. Let's roll into this thing.
These are games that you could play, like, let's say you have recess at school and there's a field. That count. These could count. It's not specifically I say summer, but I don't mean summer vacation. I mean warm weather. Outdoor. Yeah.
Right, we don't want to nail you down too hard to this thing.
Okay.
Let's hear what you got.
There will be room for discussion if I missed, and I already kind of, okay.
All right.
So how does this work? Do you guys, yeah, go ahead. Do
You
do like honorable mentions first or
No.
After?
So the general framework is we'll do 10 through 7, then we'll do our not top 3, then we'll do 6 through 4, then you will list your honorable mentions, then 1 through 3, and then we will list ours that have not been mentioned yet.
I would criticize Erin for not listening, but I forget the rules too.
Every time.
Most episodes.
I do listen. I listen a lot. I'm panicking now because now it's my turn and I don't know what to do. I'm just waiting for you guys to take the lead and then I'll fill in the blanks.
Don't freeze!
Yeah.
Alright, so what's number 10?
Alright, number 10 here, I have straight up tag. So, tag, this one for me was a little bit difficult because it was either going to be number 10 or number 1. Because I knew that it needed to be on the list, but I wasn't sure because it's such a simple game and like literally everybody knows what tag is. And so, and there are also so many variations of it. There's freeze tag, there's TV tag, there's so many different things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like the actual fun substance of tag is not that. Like,
it's just, I love how stupidly simple tag is, because it's not like tag got invented one time and then everyone like knew how to play tag. It's been invented a million different times by any number of kids because it's so easy. You're like, hey, I'm gonna touch you, and then you're it.
Yeah.
Like, you're it, and that's it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And it immediately reminds me of the spin-off of tag from The Diary of Wimpy Kid, when the kid gets the cheese touch.
Oh, the cheese touch.
The cheese touch. When he touches a moldy piece of cheese that was on the playground, and then that kid has the cheese touch. And any kid that he touches then gets the cheese touch.
Yeah. That's a far more disgusting version of tag.
Right.
And a sadder one.
Yeah. But also,
it's also a really good explanation of how kids pass around illness at school.
Right. It's just a big metaphor. But yeah, I think that the recognizability of this game is really what made it make the list, even if it's number 10.
It's also a game that kind of plays itself out pretty early in your childhood game career.
Yeah.
It's like the entry level, like it's the tutorial level of outdoor games.
Correct.
Because pretty quickly you get tired of tag and then you play freeze tag and you're like, okay, this is fun.
This is new but the same.
And then like after another like half hour of that, you're like, let's go play a different game.
Yeah, it's like, all right. The great thing about it too is that it's no supplies needed. You need
Huge.
nothing.
That's totally true.
Yeah.
It would not surprise me at all to find that, like, kids in every part of the world play tag.
Oh, for sure.
It's like it's kind of like the universal game if you don't have a ball to play the actual universal game of soccer.
Right.
It's even true with like animals and like different, like through ancient history, like people just play tag. Like it's just a thing. Mm-hmm. I feel like they probably had a different word for it. But I love that, like, how universal it is at least in the United States right now. Like, we've sometimes run into regional differences. Like, you said playscape, and I thought you sounded like a complete goober, because I wouldn't call that a playscape, and you guys say pop sometimes, but everybody says it. Like, nobody I know says anything but it.
Yeah, the trademarkability of the phrase tag you're it is just, it's all there.
Yeah.
It's the perfect catchphrase for a game.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Hot start. I love it.
Yeah, this is good. Number 9, we have, this is another kind of disclaimer because I don't know how much I know, I'm the same as Cameron.
You're doing the same as
Cameron.
I know. But I just want to say it because I am unsure. I think that me and Kyle and Cameron had such a great outdoor childhood experience. Like, we had all the neighbors in the court, and we would always go out every single day and play.
It's important to note that we live at the end of a cul-de-sac.
Right.
And so, like, it was like a freaking sitcom. Like, all the kids in the cul-de-sac, like, come out to play.
Jogging out.
And it was like
knocking on each other's doors.
It was like every day.
It was every day.
For like 5 or 6 years of our childhood, we played Step Out. So we had a really strong childhood game.
Yeah. Which I think is important to say because now I know that we have a very strong association with a lot of these games that I'm not sure that everybody has. So I think that that'll be...
Well, it's good that Mike's here.
Right. Okay, number 9 for me is Kick the Can. This one's pretty classic too.
Wow, I've never actually played Kick the Can.
So really? Kick the Can is an older game too. Yeah. Like, our parents played Kick the Can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are probably a lot of people that don't actually know Kick the Can, so if you want to quickly explain the rules.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, so there's a can, obviously, or any kind of whatever.
We would use a big coffee can.
Yeah.
Oh,
and one
like
person,
the Folgers thing?
Yep.
Yeah, like a tin can. Something that makes a lot of noise. That's kind of most important. Ideally. And somebody stands by the can, whoever's it, and everybody else hides within eyesight of... The spot that you're in has to be within eyesight of who's it.
And the can.
And the person has to look around, and he can walk away from the can, and then once he knows where somebody is, he has to run back to the can, put his foot on the can, and say, I see Kyle peeking out from behind that bush running towards the can. Whatever. And if he calls out where Kyle is before Kyle kicks the can, then Kyle's out. And so Kyle has to stand by the can, and then now as the person who's it is looking for all the other people, if he strays away too far from the can, somebody else from a different hiding spot comes, runs out. If he kicks the can, then the team wins and the person loses.
Wow. It's sort of like sharks and minnows, capture
Yeah.
the flag, hide and seek, like all sort of mashed together.
It's this amazing, like, you have to make this calculation in your head, like,
Is it
how
worth
far
it?
away does the guy need to get from the can before I can make it to the can in time and kick that shit?
Yeah.
And, like, there's nothing better than when you get there almost at the same time and the guy's like, I don't touch the can!
Yeah. I see.
So
I
what
see Kyle
happens
running
if you
into-
kick the can? So if I kick the can, then what happens to the person who's in?
Well,
They lose.
they lose. If even one
Okay.
person kicks the can, the game is over.
Right.
Okay.
At least that's how
And then
we
you
play.
restart.
I feel like
I don't know what the official rules
I feel like
are.
what's cool about these games is that like it's like house rules. Like
Right.
you can
Totally.
these games probably have a lot of
It's
variation
like
in them.
childhood beer pong.
Right. But what's cool about or what I like about this game is that we've quickly entered the realm of night games because this is a really good game to play at night.
Whoa, that would be fun at night.
Like I don't really actually remember
Dangerous.
playing this game very often during the day.
Right.
This game is kind of similar to another game that I'm sure appears
Yeah.
also on your list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I would as soon as you said this, the first thing that popped into my head was kick the can.
wow.
And this also kind of falls in the category of tag where there's like very little supplies needed. It's
Pretty
like-
much a can.
Yeah.
Right. It's literally a can. And if you don't have a can, like a milk jug will do just fine. You know, it's
Just
like
something you can
whatever.
kick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes it more fun if it's a noisy object, but you know what?
Because
not
it's more
necessary.
humiliating for the person
Right.
who's it.
Yes.
There's
That's
a
the
lot
idea.
of humiliation involved in these games.
Yeah.
Same with tag.
Yeah.
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 Oh my god, yeah.
Excellent.
True. Okay. Number 8. This is, I think, the one that you were just thinking of. Ghost in the Graveyard / Sardines.
Yeah.
Because
I'm so
they're-
sorry. What in God's name are you talking about?
You never played Ghosts in the Graveyard?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my. This is like for sure a night game.
Yeah.
Go ahead and
Okay.
explain those rules, Erin.
Our neighborhood privilege is showing. So Ghost in the Graveyard and Sardines are in the same category because they're literally just the opposite of each other. So Ghost in the
Okay.
Graveyard, again, one person's it, and how does this work? Okay, everybody goes and hides.
Same thing. Everyone hides.
Yeah, everyone
Yeah.
hides. And if you find the person who's it has to look, and this one you have to play at night. It's like, you kind of have to. And so
Yep.
the person who's it goes and looks for people. And if he sees somebody, the person gets out of the hiding spot and runs back to the home base, right?
Yeah.
And if the person who's it tags them, then that person is now it for the next round.
Okay, so this is a game. We called it Manhunt.
Yeah.
Or but
Right,
then they
this
have to
is the
yell
same as
Ghost in the-
Manhunt.
So when whoever's it finds someone, they shout
Yeah.
Ghost in the Graveyard, and then it's like, owie, owie, it's like owie, owie, owie.
Yeah.
Everyone just like freaks
Yeah.
out and runs back to the base.
Yeah.
And basically the idea is to get back there before the, like whoever's it. And if you
Yes.
can tag anybody
Oh, that's
before
what
they
it
get
is.
back to the base,
Yeah.
they are now it for the next round.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm very familiar with this game. It's a great game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sardines is the close sibling of Ghost in the Graveyards. And, so in this one, the person who's it stays at the home base while everybody else hides again. No, opposite. One person hides. The person who's it hides. And then the other people, when the timing is up, they all go and look for this one person.
Oh
and
my
whoever
goodness.
finds the person has to hide
Oh.
hide with the person. And then the last person who doesn't find the person and hide with them is it. for the
I
next
totally
round.
forgot
so
that game
sardines.
existed.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I
That's
like
so
these, like, all
amazing.
sardines in a
So much
can.
fun.
I forgot how fun that is because as soon as you see someone, you're like,
Yeah, and you like hide up.
and then
next
it's
to
like, if they're hiding behind like one tree, all of a sudden it's like
Yeah.
7 people behind a tree.
which
and
is
then-
why it's called sardines because you're packed. in
Yeah,
with
and then
it.
there's that sinking feeling when you start to see like fewer and fewer people around you, like looking.
Oh my god.
I completely forgot that Sardines existed, and I
Yeah.
think that's actually a better game than Ghost in the Graveyard.
I agree. I
Well,
agree. We
this
we
sounds
could
like such a great
ultimately
game.
just cut Ghost in the Graveyard and make this solely sardines.
Well, we love packaging things together, as
Yeah.
you probably know.
yeah.
So there's no need to cut anything. But I'm just having like this really fantastic wave of nostalgia because
Yeah.
if I had put my own list together for this,
Yeah.
this never would have occurred to me. I totally forgot. But we played this a lot.
Yes.
This is a great game.
We did.
Can I just say the overwhelming sensation I feel as we talk about this like family of games is the need to pee. Do you guys remember?
Correct.
Like it'd be at nighttime and you're like hiding somewhere and you're like standing behind
Yeah.
a single tree and you're like, and you're like, oh no, I gotta pee. And you
Yeah.
just start feeling nervous.
Yeah.
But then you have to like all of a sudden put on a burst of speed and you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can make it
Yeah.
to this
Yeah.
can. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to kick this can and let loose here.
Yeah. This is also worth noting at this point. This is a great anecdote, and I know how Mike loves anecdotes.
I do.
One time we were playing this game at our friend Jamie's house, and it was one of these versions. It was either this or kick the can or something. And Cameron ended up hiding in the bed of Jamie's family friend's pickup truck.
Oh my god.
Like,
And, so he hid in the bed of the truck, and the guy came out of the house, left, didn't know that Cameron was in the bed of the truck.
Oh my god.
And Cameron was like banging on it. It was either that he knew he didn't know that Cameron was in there, or he knew and he was like trying to play a trick on him. But he drove away and Cameron was freaking the fuck out.
Oh my god.
And he's like, oh yeah. It was so good. And then
That's
he figured it out and
incredible.
drove him back, and Cameron did the walk of shame from the pickup truck back to home base. It was good.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Next. Are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What's number 7?
Number 7 is the first of one of these spin-offs from a normal sport, 500.
Oh,
Ooh.
great game.
Yeah.
500 is awesome because the vessel that you use doesn't really matter. Like you can use a football or a tennis
Yes.
ball.
Football is actually quite fun because it tracks weirdly in the air.
Yep. And it bounces. I think football is the best to do because it bounces funny.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So like you could be totally ready to catch a football off a bounce and then it's like, fuck you, and it spins
Yeah.
off somewhere else.
Can somebody do a quick explanation for the crowd?
Yeah. So, person is, again, it has the ball of choice, and everybody else kind of just gathers in a big mob somewhere like 500 yards. That's an exaggeration. Not
500 yards.
In the Manning
that's-
family, they did.
So then you get a potato cannon.
Okay, that was a gross exaggeration.
Maybe like 50 feet.
Okay.
Yes.
50. I think I was thinking because it's called 500, but that's not why it's called that.
That is not why it's called.
It's more related to the points part of this game, I think.
Right.
Yes.
So the person who's it calls out a number of points, or this is where it gets good, can say Easter egg, which they don't know what
Yeah.
they're gonna get.
Mystery box.
Mystery
Yeah,
box.
we called it mystery ball or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or jackpot, which is
Jackpot-
a
jackpot's fun, yeah.
real crowd pleaser.
Mhm.
And so then this person calls out whatever the prize is going to be, chucks the ball usually very high into the air, and then everybody kind of fights to catch it. Or sometimes it's dead or alive is another
Yeah,
factor.
dead or
Bounce.
alive is a
Yeah.
weird one. That's like what you're saying with the football. With the football, dead or alive is just
Yeah.
mayhem.
Yeah.
Just a mess.
And sometimes it gets really good because alive is a common one, dead or alive is a common one. But if you say dead, then you have to kind of tap the ball, make it hit the ground, and then get it.
Yeah.
Which is
Did you guys do negative points?
Yep.
yeah,
You can
with
do
the
negative
mystery
points.
box, yeah.
You could do bubble gum, which means that like if you got it, you were
Mm.
stuck in that spot and couldn't move for a turn.
Oh my goodness, that's just
Or
cruel.
yep. Well, I was just about to say that this game had
Mm.
a tendency to devolve into like hurt feelings.
Picking on people.
Most of these games do.
Yeah, but this one specifically because like the tall kids had an advantage, so
Mhm.
like usually the smaller kids would like have to resort to like ankle kicking and stuff,
Right.
or like whoever. And it's hard. It's actually hard to moderate a game of 500 as the score shouter
Mm-hmm.
because like sometimes you can pick on people that way. Like
Right.
we also would play a version because Jamie and Taylor and Cammy had a trampoline, so you would like throw a tennis ball into the trampoline.
Oh my god,
And that got dangerous quick, but
Yeah.
that was also a
very
ton of fun.
dangerous.
Yeah, that's a really fun variation.
Yeah, I specifically remember a walk home from Jamie's trampoline just with a trail of blood following me because I hit my knee on my face and it cut through my lip. It was violent.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see if trampoline games made their way onto this list at all because there's a lot of variation there.
Yeah,
But anyways,
soccer is fun on trampoline.
we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
500 is a classic. Even
Yeah.
like amongst
Yeah.
organized sports, like 500 is often used as like
Yeah.
a,
Yeah,
especially
that's true.
especially in baseball, like learning how to
it's dangerous with a baseball though.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's- It's very easy to set people up for failure in this game, too, which a lot of people like to do. So when you're the caller, I mean, technically you're supposed to know what the mystery box is before you throw it.
Yeah. Oh, you never do. Nobody does. You
regulation.
You pick based on who caught it.
Right,
yeah, exactly.
Correct. And so it's really a motivation to just not go for the mystery box at all.
Yeah.
Unless you somehow did something to get on the good side of the thrower, because it's tough.
Yeah, that's a scenario where you just have to play the thrower.
Yeah.
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 And even that, kids, one thing you learn from this game is kids are like capricious buttholes. Like, you could be best friends with the person, and they're like, oh, catch the mystery box, man, and it's like, -1 billion. And you also, like, as somebody who works tangentially in, like, finance, I've learned how inflation works. Because you play this game, and it does not stay in, like, the order of tens and hundreds very long.
No, it
it's
escalates.
like, 50,000, man. And you're like, shut up. This is just a dumb game if we're doing 50,000s. Because then the next person can be like, 1. You're like,
right. Or like something totally random, like 46.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I can't do math on the fly.
Yeah, you're like, I gotta add this up now.
You're like, you realize we're like 12, right?
I'm not playing no more. I'm going home.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you give thought to a not top 3?
I did. Well, not 3. I really only have a not top 1 because I feel like it's good enough to encompass all 3 of them. Because this game confuses me to this day why literally anybody would play it. It's violent. It's not smart. And I remember playing this on the playground and
I know what you're
at
gonna
home
say.
Yeah.
For some reason. Not top 1 is Red Rover.
Yeah.
We were not allowed to play this at my elementary school.
I remember playing it, but it being shut down quickly. Yeah. It's just like a really awful idea.
It's an arm-breaking game. It's not a good idea. And I don't know who came up with it. And see, it's like, it takes one kid to be like, hey, you guys want to play Red Rover? And then it takes all the rest of them to be like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
It takes one kid to be like, hey, let's play Red Rover unless you're a wuss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I'm not a wuss, I'll play Red Rover.
Yeah.
And then it's like you get a gang of tough guys that want to play it, and then everyone ends up playing it.
It always just ends up being Red Rover, send that fat kid
Yeah.
right over.
Poor fat kid.
Yeah.
Or,
poor fat kid.
On the other end of that spectrum, send Kyle right over.
Yeah.
Because he weighs like 65 pounds soaking wet. Like, come on, guys, let me through.
I will say an interesting component of like why some of these games are fun and why others aren't is that how universally they can be played by people of different shapes and sizes makes a huge difference. And I think that's also part of why games like this are less fun when you're like 12, because the girls are like 5'7", the boys are like 4'10". Some guys are like have a mustache. Some of them are like, hey, everybody. And like, it's no longer fair at all because you've got some kid who's just like plucking the ball over everybody in 500. And Red Rover is a classic example of that. Like, everybody has to be 45 pounds for this to have any sort of joy to it.
Right. And this could be part of the reason why play on elementary school playgrounds, apart from all the other weird things happening at that age, it's just like you can't really play boys and girls because the size is so different. So which is why you get the boys on the field and the girls on the blacktop. It makes sense.
Everywhere on Earth.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like this social understanding that that's just how things segregate.
Yeah, it's like a Maltese family gathering. Boys on one side, girls on the other.
I'm trying to think of other not top 3 games. I like your idea of like a game that is kind of pointless and also like leads to injury often.
Yeah.
I don't know. Growing up, a playscape game or a field. So I was almost always a playscape kid, and I would venture onto the field occasionally because it's a jungle out there.
Yeah.
The way our field basically functioned is there was never like an organized game of soccer.
Yeah.
It was just like, there are 8 soccer balls, get one, and kick it in any direction.
Yeah.
Not necessarily at the net.
Yeah.
And then like spend the next 15 minutes like trying to kick the ball again.
Back. Yeah.
There weren't teams or anything like that. It was like this weird free-for-all of just kicking a soccer ball as hard as you could. And that's why I played on the Playscape a lot, because I was really bad at kicking the ball.
Yeah, it's survival of the fittest on the field, which is why I usually didn't go. And it's because the good balls on a playscape are a rare commodity. Like, you gotta get out there early. There's always, like, 46 balls, but, like, 40 of them are flat or have a hole or too soft, you know? So it's like, getting the good one is rare.
Yeah. Can I say one that I think is a not top is, and I think it goes along with what Erin was saying with the rules at the beginning. I think anytime you were in the neighborhood and somebody tried to too strictly play the real game, that was awful. Like, when somebody was like, we're gonna play baseball, and you're like, oh, cool, let's get, like, the tennis rackets and the tennis ball. And somebody was like, no, we're gonna use a metal bat, and we're gonna have, like, a certain number of people on every team. You're like, this is not fun. Like, you need at least 18 people. You need a field. You need fences. You need a backstop. Oh my god, you need an actual backstop. Like, but somebody would be a real smart ass because they learned how to throw a curveball and, like, try to play the game. And it was not fun. It was terrible.
Yeah, it's like, Jimmy, we're playing underhand, alright? I
Yeah,
don't care.
it's like, we're doing it. You have to have some funky variation on this.
Right.
Otherwise, it's not very fun.
It's like the kid in gym class, the kid who's just too serious about it, and it just takes the fun out of everything.
Also, on the other end of this spectrum, with, like, the traditional team sports, would be doing one of these traditional team sports sans goalie. Like, when you were doing this, and you're like, oh, no, it's cool, we'll just turn the net upside down. You're like, yeah, this sucks. Like, this game isn't fun if there's not a goalie. I could just, like, walk in and tap it.
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with saying Red Rover, field soccer, in air quotes here, and, like, any organized sport that's actually played by strict rules in a yard setting. Is that a fair, not top 3?
I think so.
All right. Let's recap real quick, 10 through 7, and then we'll move on to 6.
All right. At 10, we have Tag. 9, we have Kick the Can. 8, we have Ghost in the Graveyard / Sardines. And at 7, we have 500.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right.
Numero 6.
Number 6 is also a spin-off game. This one is one of my personal favorites. Pickle.
Pickle!
Oh, Pickle! I love Pickle!
Pickle!
Pickle.
So good.
Pickle is like, I feel like no one is, like, really excited when someone suggests Pickle. It's, like, kind of a backup option.
Right.
Yeah.
But then as soon as you start playing, everyone's really into Pickle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We always had
do you want to explain Pickle real quick?
Yeah, so there are 2 bases in a straight, well, if you have anything up 2, it's always a straight line. Okay,
True.
So there are 2 bases and 2 people, 1 person on each base. And usually we used to play it with baseball, but I think that you...
Or tennis ball.
Baseball?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like, the sport of baseball.
Oh.
Like, kind of ball.
Yeah.
But I think you can also play it with a football. We did that a few times when we couldn't find a baseball or something. But, so, and all the other people who are playing start on one of these home bases. And then they have to run to the other base in a standard Pickle fashion. You know, you have to tag the person when they get off the base, but it usually ended up in a person running back and forth to try and get on the other base until somebody dropped a ball, and then everybody would jump off the base and run
off.
Well, and the best is, like, early game Pickle, because they're just, like, basically playing catch, and everyone is, like, taking a step off the bag, but then, like, like, getting right back. And then you do, like, the fake drop. Like, and you, like,
the classic fake drop.
You drop it a little bit, but you're everyone knows exactly what you're doing. And then as soon as you actually miss one, that's when people know and they freak out.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that there's no, like, point system. Like, you don't get a point for every time you successfully traverse from one base to the other.
No, and so some jerk can just sit there, basically.
Yeah.
Right. So, like,
it's no fun.
Yeah, but it's funny because, like, even though there's no incentive, like, to go back and forth a bunch of times, if someone whales one and throws it, like, way past, you're like, oh my, I could do 10.
Yeah, you like go back and forth.
Even though there's really no reason to.
Yeah.
For simplicity, tag it's really fun and, like, actually teaches you a valuable skill if you ever want to play infield.
Yeah. Right.
Did you guys do pegging?
No, because I think we may have tried that a couple of times and it just led to too many problems.
Is that when you just chuck the ball at someone to get them out?
Yeah.
Oh, we always, when I played, we always did pegging, which is what makes it interesting, because if you miss, then everybody can run.
Yeah.
So this was a game
true.
that when I was growing up, this was often like a pool game. Like everybody's out of the pool for a little while. Like you need to dry off for a little bit. It's a really effective way of drying off. You just like run around and you have a tennis ball and you would whip it as hard as you possibly could because you wouldn't have a shirt on. And so you try to nail somebody in the back and leave an imprint of the tennis ball, which really spices up the game because the ball ends up going like 100 feet past the base. Yeah,
that makes it more fun, but also a lot more dangerous, which in turn is more fun.
Yeah. Exactly.
The one thing, this is one of the games where it actually is more fun. It's inversely related to the skill of the people who are on the base.
Yes.
So if the people are really good and they just make every catch and then they have to actually try to miss it, it's a lot less fun. Whereas if you put some noob on the base, they don't know how to throw a ball or catch a ball. There's a lot more action happening. So this is for the underdogs, I think, a little bit more than the rest of the games. But
True.
Pickle is a classic. I love it.
Yeah, great pick.
Good stuff.
I haven't been in a good pickle in a long time.
Yeah. Also, just as a note, like, the phrase. I love that the phrase.
Well, it's fun because, like, I wonder what came first. Like,
a
baseball scenario where you're stuck between bases and you're like, this guy sure is in a pickle.
Right.
Or like, I feel like the phrase, being in a tough spot was a pickle long before the baseball thing happened. Mm-hmm. And then that happened in baseball and someone said, boy, this guy sure is in a pickle. Yeah. And now it's associated specifically with like this, like base running error.
Right.
I really like to think about the different ways this could have come into being because, like, when you picture the base path in baseball, like, the infield is slightly elliptical and it's sort of shaped like a pickle. So, like, it could be that you're sort of, like, in a pickle, or it could be that, like, maybe in the 1800s, it was really fashionable to eat cucumbers but not pickles. And so people were like, oh, he's in a real pickle. Like, I really like to think about... I don't want to look it up now. Don't look it up. Don't tell me. If you find out, don't tell me.
It just happened to be that they're like, hey, he's running in the path of a pickle. And he's in a situational pickle.
Yes. Don't look it up.
Chances.
This shall be henceforth a pickle.
Yeah. Got out the scroll and the fountain pen.
By royal decree, and somebody, like, plays a bugle.
Yeah.
I like to think that even in, like, 1840, when this game of baseball was being invented, they were calling it a pickle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's fair to assume.
Admiral Chatsworth sure isn't a pickle.
Yeah.
It was a military exercise first.
Well, I think that it's rumored that the origins of baseball are military related, like is something to do maybe even around the Civil War, as like camp games to entertain folks in between whatever.
Well, fun fact for you, my Uncle Lou actually did that. He was in the Navy, I believe, during the Korean War, and he was not, he wasn't deployed, but he played baseball games on the naval team to help build support for the war effort.
Wow.
Wow, that is a fun fact.
That's
Isn't
really
that cool? So it's actually the reason that baseball was invented, we think.
That's great. I like watching sometimes at Mike's apartment, my boyfriend, they have the old-timey baseball games in the field next to his apartment.
That's cool.
So they all wear like the old-fashioned costumes and the hats, and then the rules are different because they don't wear...
You can catch it on a bounce.
Yeah, because they don't use gloves. So it's always super cool. We always like sit there.
And they play with like, I think it's just 2 outfielders, right?
It might be,
or actually the way the game used to be played was 4 outfielders.
Yeah. I just heard that the other day.
Yeah, and there's a guy that plays like between the infield and the outfield called the shortstop, and that's the origin of the shortstop position. Anyways, I think we're getting a little bit too far into the history of the game here. That was number 6. What's number 5?
Okay. Number 5 is kickball. So this is usually played with a 4-square ball. It's kind of a spin-off of baseball because it's the same rules, essentially. Yeah, except you're kicking the ball, obviously. We used to play this a lot. We did play it outside, but we also played it inside in gym class. But not strictly inside, which is why it still made this list. But yeah, all the same rules as baseball, but...
Kickball? Well, first of all, I would say that 4-square is played with a kickball, right?
Oh, shots fired.
Ooh.
So,
Excuse us.
I mean, I'm not calling you out, Erin, but I think you're completely wrong on that one.
Okay, that's fair.
Dumbass.
I'll take
And
it.
you're an embarrassment to the gene pool.
I'm sorry. I'll see myself out.
you know the way.
Yeah.
Kickball is interesting because it's just like a way more fun yard version of baseball. Like the fact that if you kick a kickball like way high in the air, like, or even moderately in the air, like the hang time on a kickball means that you can realistically catch a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so like,
it would have that weird float. Like it would catch up in the air.
It like wobbles.
The
like,
noise
funny,
is
especially.
I still remember the noise, like.
Especially because a kickball almost never is spherical, so it's like a knuckleball, like, and it like hits you like in the chest right under your neck when you were expecting it to land like closer to your feet. Like, and
it's
like
the most bouncy, so it just bounces straight off everything.
Yeah, and I would say intuitively, there's just more like inherent pleasure in kicking a ball than there is trying to hit like a tennis ball with a bat.
Oh yeah, also inherently easier. Like this is the little brother of baseball.
It's definitely really important.
This is more user friendly, I think, than baseball.
And I would say that in general, pegging is like the
that's
official
true.
rule of kickball more than like obviously because
it's usually a no-no in baseball.
Right. Well, but
Generally.
a kickball is also functions as a dodgeball, and so like you're supposed to hit people with them.
Yeah.
We played this in gym as well, and I will never forget this. You know how a gym court, there's your 2 primary basketball hoops, and then there are typically 4 on the sides?
Yeah.
I one time kicked a ball into not the far hoop, but like the far right hoop.
Wow.
So like not the full length, but it went shoomp right through.
Legendary.
What a baller.
So I remember that because that was cool, but I will never, ever forgive, what was his name? Mr. Byers.
Oh my god.
I will never forgive him for awarding me a ground rule double for that.
Are you serious?
Garbage! Garbage! That's not a ground rule double.
What an insult.
I
That
couldn't
is an
believe
insult.
my ears when he told me that was a ground rule double.
You should have gotten like a home touchdown goal basket. Like you should have gotten some special thing.
That's a game ender. You just it's done.
I should have done the equivalent of like pimped my home run and like walked as slow as I could to first base before like popping my chain and trotting around the rest of the gym. And then the game should have been over. Or at least it should have been like, even if there was only one person on base, we should have gotten like 6 runs.
This could have either gone 2 ways, in my opinion. It was either complete chaos, everybody going nuts, or everybody was just so in awe that it was silent. And I can't decide.
How do you remember it, Kyle? In your dreams. When you dream about it, how do you remember it?
I remember stunned silence and outrage at least on my team, for the ground rule double call.
This might be the equivalent, the gym class equivalent of the, Jim Jones Galarraga call. Mr. Byers
oh my
is
God.
Jim Jones.
For those of you who are not from the Detroit area listening, a pitcher for the Detroit Tigers a few years ago pitched not only a perfect game, but like the most perfect game, because he had thrown like 95 pitches at that point.
It was insane.
Like this unbelievable game, and a perfect game is like this unicorn in baseball. He has a perfect game. It was the last out, right?
The last out.
Last out of the game. There's a ground ball. He's out. The player was out. The guy running to first base was so obviously out, and the umpire calls it safe, which first of all, it was the wrong call, but second of all, you call him out. It doesn't even matter. The guy could have been safe by a step and a half. You call him out because it was a perfect game. The other team was never going to win, and he screwed it up. Oh.
Yeah. And the important thing here is that, well, in baseball, you can't take back the call once you make it.
Well you can now.
You can now.
But this happened like 6 years ago.
Right, so you couldn't. But in Mr. Byers' case, it must have been a pride thing. Like, he made the call, he might have known that it was the wrong call to make. But
immediately
at this point,
after he did it.
He can't go back on his word, because all these kids would have,
stepped to
demolished him. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't show fear in a gym class like that.
Not in that dojo.
No.
So that's what I think happened that day.
Yeah, I was like in the middle of my if you've ever seen The Natural, with like he hits the home run and it hits the lights and they're like like fireworks, and it's like slow motion, lights fading, like he's running around the bases. and it was like, the record scratch,
Yeah.
and then I had to stop at second base.
It's just the most uneventful. I know we're talking a long time about kickball, but I have one more tiny story.
Yeah.
We talk about how this is like the easier version of baseball, where it's virtually impossible to strike out. Yet,
You have to really
yes.
try.
no.
somehow I still remember some kid, and I remember his name. I won't say it. I'm sick of sheer embarrassment on his behalf, but he actually struck out playing kickball. He swung his puny little leg 3 times. 3 times and missed the ball thrice.
At the same ball?
At the what? Yeah, like
Or it was
3
thrown
pitches.
3
No, he didn't like swing around like a
He
turnstile.
like runs back while the ball is still rolling. No, it was 3 different pitches, missed the ball 3 times, and that day will forever go down in history.
Poor kid.
Poor John. I won't use his last name.
He knows.
But yeah, he knows.
Yeah,
He
he's out
remembers.
there. He knows.
Yeah.
Last thing, kickball gets point for being like a really popular like beer league game that
True.
even adults still play.
True.
True.
All right,
Okay.
number 4.
Number 4. This is another slash category, and it's
Okay.
going to be lightning/horse.
Mm.
So these are both spin-offs of basketball. And lightning is the one where you stand, one person starts, it's about a free throws distance. Well, the
It's a free
equivalent, a
throw.
kid's
Yeah.
free throw. And you throw the ball. If you make it, you go to the back of the line. If you miss it, you have to make it before the person behind you throws a free throw to make it. And you
Yeah,
kind of
2
race.
basketballs. 2 basketballs.
And if the
Yeah.
person behind you makes it before you, then you're out. And horse, everybody kind of knows the rules of horse.
Yeah,
We called it knockout. Lightning was called
Yeah.
knockout in my area.
Okay.
same
yeah.
thing.
So we played this one a lot, and I think that it was a big day in our neighborhood history when the kid across the street, who was kind of the home base of everybody in our neighborhood, because he had the biggest driveway, the most area,
The best basketball hoop
Yes.
I've ever seen.
That
in
was
a
always
driveway.
huge.
Yeah. and it was one day, and he told us, he's like, yeah, we're getting a light installed on our basketball hoop, and it was
Oh
this
my God.
huge thing that it was like a pole that came from the back of the hoop, and it was a huge light.
I'm sure it was only like 10 feet above the rim, but it seemed like it was 100 feet.
Oh my
And
gosh,
it just
it was-
and it just like bathed the entire driveway in this eerie glow. And
Yeah.
so across the street, Luke
hmm
ended up being a very good high school basketball player.
Yeah, yeah.
And his
It's a
dad,
solid
Mr.
investment.
Dave, was like a really, really good basketball player and
Mhm.
a good coach. So they were into it. And so they
Yeah.
like actually, paved out like you know how most driveways are separated into like the 2 columns?
Yeah.
They actually paved a third one so he could effectively shoot 3 free throws.
Mhm.
They had the
Wow.
light on above the rim. It was like the really easily adjustable rim, so you could
height,
do different
yeah.
heights.
Oh, those were cool. We used to have to
Yeah.
use like a broomstick.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
That's what, yeah.
This was it just had a crank,
yeah.
so anyone could do it.
Oh my gosh, it was another game changer in our world. And it like, so that turned out to be, it was Ghost in the Graveyard and basketball we could play after the sun went down. So usually it was,
So lightning was
choosing
more of a
between-
night game.
yeah, for
Yeah.
us
For
it
us.
was. Yeah. You can also, this was pretty common, I think, on like playgrounds too, and
Definitely in
inside,
gym.
anywhere there's a basketball hoop, but yeah.
What I'm thinking about with these games is like I'm half going down memory lane and feeling very positive and nostalgic about my childhood and all these fun games. But then I'm half also going down the road of remembering how when you get to a certain age, kids just ruin stuff. Like I don't know if it's the puberty or what, but these are 2 games that like 12-year-old boys they just ruin. Because with lightning, for example, or knockout, the moment one person realizes they can just throw the ball really hard at the other person's ball and then just do a layup,
Yeah.
that was the worst. I hated when that happened, and it was always some like 11-year-old boy who's like, I'm gonna show these kids what's what.
Yeah.
And
That's a
equivalent-
high risk,
yeah.
high reward strategy.
True, but if you get good at it and you can get it to just like deaden and fall right back at you, I hated when kids started doing that. And the other one was horse, because the moment some kid becomes really clever and is like, hey, that's H-O, you're a hoe. Ugh. Like,
And then
please, people.
HOR.
Yeah, and you're like, you're a whore. And then I was like, well, that's spelled wrong, you dumbass. But it just was like, it was the worst. Like, kids find a way to ruin every game once they get to a certain age.
Yeah, lightning is certainly no exception.
Yeah.
I think Lightning is also one of those games that has, what's cool about Lightning is that you often play like 8 games in a row, which means that there are carryover consequences from previous games.
True.
So like, if you knock me out in the first game of Lightning, and what's the little social experiment that happens between every game when you figure out who's going to line up where?
Yeah.
Because you never want to be in front of Luke. Because if
Right.
you miss, you're done.
Right.
And-
But I think that we regulated that eventually where it was you have to line up in the order that you got out.
Oh.
So that it was
Oh, yeah.
so that it was a
Oh,
little
there's
bit
some
more
parity?
fair. So that it's kind of a gradient of good players to bad players.
That makes an
Oh,
awful
that's
lot
so
of sense.
shameful.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, I think the person who got out first gets in line first. I think
Yeah.
that's how it works.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That makes
But
sense.
then that also
Oh.
gives the person who won an unfair advantage.
Distinct advantage.
Because then it's all the bad people behind him.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well,
Interesting.
there might be a few flaws in that plan, but again, we were probably like 10, so
Right.
didn't really think that through. But here we are. Okay.
All right. So that was 4. So what were your honorable mentions?
Okay. Honorable mentions. The one that was close to making the list, but I felt comfortable leaving it off because we had pickle on here and kickball, which are kind of in the same vein. This was just the home run derby,
Oh,
which we did.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Pretty often.
I was just writing down a couple of my thoughts. Home run derby was one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this one is, we pretty much, I think you did it by outs, like how the normal one goes, or pitches or something.
Yeah, outs. Basically, like any swing you take that doesn't result in a home run is an out.
Right.
And you get like
What-
7,
Yeah.
10.
In your memory, when you're thinking about this, what was the bat and what was the ball? And my last question, how reasonable was a home run? Those are my questions. Go.
We had a pretty distinct line of where the home run was. I can picture right now where we were standing batting, and the line was usually the street, right? Like across, but it was pretty far.
To get to hit a home run to dead center was hard.
Mm-hmm.
To hit a home run to right, if you're so you're thinking of like home plate is basically where Steve's basketball
tree,
hoop is. Yeah. So then if you wanted to hit it to right, you had to hit it like over the tree in Luke's front yard, basically.
Oh, that was always a fun one, was to be like a random obstacle.
Right.
Well, and then to hit it to left, you basically had to hit it like
over the house.
there was like an eave on their house that like if you hit it like over that portion of the roof, like it was generally considered a home run.
Right.
And so like, but to hit it to dead center, you had to get it over that huge,
Oh yeah,
like canopy
mushroom
tree.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah.
Only
And
pretty much only Steve could do that.
He consistently won the home run derby. He was
Steve
so
played
good at it.
Steve played baseball at North Texas, so like
Yeah.
he was actually good at baseball.
Damn, this
Right.
Steve guy, he sounds like quite a dude.
Oh, he's the best.
Yeah. But so yeah, I'm probably certain that I maybe made one home run in my entire home run derby career.
But it was hard, but not unattainable. And we would use an aluminum bat and a
Yeah.
tennis ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like occasionally we would get, when we got a little older, we would use when we started to acquire wooden bats, we'd use those.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
But it was kind of a handicap too. Like the bad players sometimes would get to use aluminum bats and the good players had to use wood bats and then they would still cream us. It was
Yeah. I like that.
what else?
so that was that. The other one is kind of just a personal thing that we used to do, and it's called the human caterpillar,
Oh my god.
Oh,
which is
jeez.
extremely dangerous. And I think
That's
that we made this,
unfortunate.
we might have made this game up, but I'm not sure. It might exist elsewhere. But basically, I would get on my bike. Everybody else who was going to play this got on rollerblades. Usually had helmets, and we would make a human chain of
You just,
everybody
like, tow
holding
them?
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody holding on to the person in front of them, their shirt. And then Jamie would always be the one right behind the bike, and she'd hold on to the bike seat. And then I would just ride around the court and down the street and try and whip them around corners and everything. And
Oh my
Horribly
goodness, that is
dangerous. Oh my gosh.
insanely dangerous.
horribly. This is the infamous game where we spilled one time, and everybody spilled, and Luke fell, skidded across the street, and his helmet was the color on his helmet was completely shaved off.
Oh
And
my
we're like,
God.
I don't know if we should be playing this game anymore.
That was a horrible idea. It reminds me of, did you ever play Crack the Whip? Like,
No.
Like,
Jesus, guys.
the less dangerous version of this game where everyone just holds hands and the leader just runs around and tries to get, like, the person on the back to like let go.
That is not safe at all. That's like just waiting to dislocate an arm.
Yeah.
I also love the innocence of that, like, even now in recollecting this, you said the human caterpillar with not a second thought of the fact that there's a horrifying horror movie called The Human Centipede. Like, your brain takes you to such a lovely, like, sunshiny place that this terribly dangerous game you were playing that's named very close to a disgusting horror movie brings you nothing but joy. Sense. I love that.
Yeah, I didn't even think twice about it, but
exactly.
That's what we called it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's all my honorable mentions, so it's up to you guys.
All right, well, we'll do ours after.
Yeah. Okay.
So we don't accidentally steal one of yours.
Okay, so number 3 here, we have Foursquare.
Mm-hmm.
So this one is the classic 4 squares, obviously.
Yes.
And each square has ace, king, queen, jack, and you kind of have to make your way up to ace, and then everybody who gets out lines up and you filter into the jack square. This one was perfect in our neighborhood. We had the best driveway for Foursquare because we have the huge concrete slabs, and it just makes up 4 squares that you use, and they're the perfect size. And we always had chalk to mark the square with the letter of the square that it was. So
can I just ask really quickly? The driveway that you're talking about is the driveway that I've seen, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a perfect Foursquare driveway.
Yeah.
And usually you do it so driveways are obviously tilted a little bit. So the ace square is usually on the high end of the tilt, so that they kind of have the advantage. And then you really got to work
serving
hard.
Downhill.
Yeah.
It's what's cool about Foursquare is that I think there are, at least when we played it like in the neighborhood, we had a very specific set of rules. But if you played at school on the blacktop, all of a sudden all these crazy rules get introduced.
Yeah.
Like
cherry bomb.
Yeah, you're allowed to just like yell cherry bomb, and that means that you can just like throw the ball down as hard as you can, or like, or there's like
shoe shine. If you hit somebody's shoes, then it's like a redo.
There's like a bunch of weird ones. There's one weird one where you can like shout, like, I can't remember what the word was, but basically you run to the middle and put the ball down, and like the last person to touch it.
That was a thing. Yeah.
There like a lot of weird kind of dumb rules, but then there was also like a lot of gray area, because what people would do is they would like basically catch the ball and then like throw it, and you're not supposed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they were like, no, I didn't catch it. I just, you know.
You're like, no, dude, you palmed that.
Yeah. Or they do like the sling kind of throw.
If you have to explain yourself, it's probably not fair.
This Foursquare, what you're talking about, Kyle, this phenomenon is one of the really cool things about just being a kid, was like the idea of somebody from some mythical other place. Like, some kid would move to town and start going to your elementary school, and they'd be like, well, listen, I know you got your Foursquare game, but, like, back from where I'm from, we did this thing where, and then they'd introduce some, like, really wonky rule, and everybody'd be like, whoa.
Mind blown.
That other town must be amazing. And, like, slowly over time, there'd be, like, this accretion of weird rules that would just show up. But, like, somebody would have a cousin come to town, and they'd be like, listen, dude, I don't want to tell you how to play kick the can. But we do this thing, and you're like, whoa. And it's one of the best things, and Foursquare is such a great example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since, like, I'm gonna sound like an old coot here, but, like, when we were kids, there was no exchange of information between anybody that didn't live near you.
Right.
Yeah.
Or anyone you went to school with.
It was a bubble.
So, like news from the outside. Like, you're totally right. Like, I don't know. I think part of the appeal of all these games, at least for us, is like there was this sense of just like you said, like this bubble of existence where just like all these games occurred. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Foursquare is another cool one because like if you were losing and you were in the jack square, like it doesn't take that long to get up to ace.
Yeah.
Like it's a game you can quickly get back into it, and it's like kind of like lightning, or you're playing it over and over and over again quickly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there's this kind of team effort at some point. If ace has been in the square for a really long time, then everybody's kind of working against ace, so it's 1 against 3.
And you can do really cool like combo moves where like the jack can shoot it across to the king and then like quickly it's like a one-timer in hockey where you like shoot it across and then quickly the other person before it even hits the ground can put it in like the back corner of the ace because he was defending the other half of the square.
Right. But it's all unspoken.
Right.
So there's no actual strategy speaking, but then you kind of just have to like have the good sense with the other people to.
Or you would do like you would look at the ace square and then like the no look whack into the king square if you were queen to like sneakily just go up a peg.
Yeah.
It's like kind of Thronesian.
It really separates the men from the boys, this game.
It's definitely like the way people behave in these games is definitely predicts their politics later on. I would imagine like there's some games that are really fun because they're democratic, and there's other games that, especially if you're good, are really fun because they're super anti-democratic, and like if you're the king, you're just the king, man. And like I think generally speaking though, there seems to be like a very democratic leaning to which of these games are fun. Like the games that are fun are the ones that legitimately anybody could win.
Right.
Like that's why something like Foursquare is fun, is because like you can quickly rise to the top and it's really unstable at the top, and like, you know, chaos is a ladder, baby.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And the turnaround is very quick. So like a round lasts like 20 seconds maybe.
Yeah.
Unless you got a good volley going, but
Rarely.
In the game of Foursquare,
Yeah.
In the game of Foursquare, you win or you die.
Yeah.
You do.
True.
That is very true.
I've never heard something more true. Survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
All right, what's 2?
Okay, number 2 I have is Capture the Flag.
Oh.
This is...
I knew this was always going to be high.
Yeah.
This is good.
This, for me, is definitely had to be top 3, at least.
Yeah.
We played a lot of Capture the Flag. I think we probably spent like 40% of the time playing Capture the Flag.
Lots of time.
Yeah, a lot of time.
The problem with Capture the Flag, at least the way we played it, was that, so for anyone who doesn't know how to play Capture the Flag, you basically divide an area. Usually it goes like front yard, backyard of someone's house.
Which is also fun because they're often not symmetrical at all.
No. And then, like, sometimes if you want to go crazy, you can pick, like, arbitrary lines to divide around the house. So it's, like, left side of the house, right side of the house.
Yeah.
And then you have to decide, like, well, does the garage count? And then, so, like, then you hide an object. We would always use, like, a tennis ball, even though it should be a flag.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the rule was always... You can't hide it, like, you can't, like, bury it or, like, put it in a tree. Yeah. Like,
One
it has to be...
part of it has to be visible.
Has to be at least visible, which,
from
like...
some angle.
Which would always turn into, like, it's in a
very
bush,
arbitrary.
Yeah.
But, like, you can see, like, a speck of this tennis ball.
Well, if you
like,
duck down and put your head under the bush.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it ended up being, like, you have to just, like, really look for it.
Yeah.
But then, so, like, if you are an enemy, so, like, let's say you're hiding your ball in the front yard, and the enemy team is hiding theirs in the backyard, you have to grab that object and bring it back to the front yard to win. Mm-hmm. But any time that you're in the backyard, you can be tagged and sent to jail.
Right.
So, which led to an interesting strategy wherein if you are in the backyard and had not been seen yet, you just hang out in the jail and pretend like you've been tagged.
Right.
And as soon as no one's looking, you can go and freely look around for the object.
That was illegal for us, but you could, like, hang super close to the jail and sort of, We
would, like, as soon as that became clearly a strategy, you would just periodically have to go in the jail and, like, tag everyone to make sure that they were actually
just
in
to
prison.
cover your bases. Yeah. The other thing that helped, or that came out of that, was we had to usually think about, like, where the jail was on your side and not put the flag within the reaching distance of the jail, because then...
Or even visible from the jail.
Right. Yeah. There was a lot of strategy involved in this one, which I think is why I liked it so much. I remember me and Kyle went to, and Claire and Cameron, our siblings, all went to the 6th grade camp. And on one of the last days of camp, we had this, and this camp there were hundreds of kids there. It was huge. And on the last day of camp, I think we all were separated into 2 teams. So, like, each team was like 50 kids or something ridiculous. And they gave you, like, some article of clothing wearing a color, because there's no way you would know everybody on your team. It was just a color.
Yeah.
And we played the world's biggest game of Capture the Flag, and it was the most fun of my life to this point. It was crazy. And, like, you couldn't even, like, I don't even know how you could tell what the boundaries were, because it was in this huge field, and it was so much fun. This game has the potential to be just amazing.
It also has the potential to be like a marathon where it takes like an hour to play,
Right.
Yeah.
or it can be over really quickly.
Yeah.
In the marathon games, you start to develop this like mistrust and animosity towards the enemy line, and you know
Yeah.
like where the line is on the driveway. And I imagine it's kind of how like North Korean and South Korean people behave on the border. Like just stare at each other and don't want to blink. And then
Yeah.
like we'll put a leg over, and then as soon as they move, you bring it back.
Like teasing a little bit. And it always was either really boring, like it could had the potential to get boring as well, because if you're playing with a bunch of people
Yeah.
who aren't very daring, there's just a whole lot of, like quick moves against the line.
You had to get a mismatch where you have like 2-on-1, and then like you can
Yeah.
encroach with one person, then as soon as they move over, the next person
Yeah.
goes. And it's like, you're right, long stretches of boredom punctuated by like intense, like you are in back and
Action
you're like
scenes,
looking
yeah.
at all the trees like trying to fire me, and then like everyone's converging and you're like,
But then as soon as you're on the other side, then there's an imbalance, and then they go to your side, and so it's just like,
it devolves into
Yeah.
chaos quickly.
yeah, good fun.
Yeah.
A lot of good fun happening there.
Yeah, I don't think this one's gonna move too far from high
I
on
hope
the list.
not.
No. Can I tell one more thing I like about Capture the Flag?
Yeah.
I like that it was a game that was really welcome to like bolting on different rules. Like, I think the fact that Capture the Flag became such a big game for multiplayer shooters on like PlayStation and Xbox is proof that you could do anything. Like Capture the Flag, you could add on an element of like if you had a Nerf gun, or you had like a squirt gun, or you had a tennis ball you had to throw. Like you could make different rules where you could like peg people and then they were out. I think it was a cool game in that sometimes you could hide the flag, like it was a legit hide. Sometimes you saw the flag throughout, but there were just rules against guarding the flag. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
this one was welcome to a lot of different rules.
Yeah, and I think everyone at some point has played it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 1 here. This one I also knew needed to be in the top 3. My top 2, I think, are a little bit interchangeable. This was tough for me. But
Okay.
number 1 for me was Dodgeball. So
Okay.
we played a lot of Dodgeball. And the fun part about this one for us, and were fortunate enough to have a lot of kids. And so you kind of need a lot of kids for this game to be fun. And so we had the perfect yard for Dodgeball. It was just an exact rectangle. And so the boundary lines were pretty much created by the sidewalk. And, you line up all the balls in the middle, obviously, and then the two teams, it's like classic dodgeball rules. But where it gets really good is when you start playing Dr. Dodgeball,
Mm-hmm.
What?
where there's secretly each team assigns one person as the doctor, and that person has healing abilities. And so when somebody on their team gets out, they have to freeze, and the doctor on the team can go and tag that person, but you don't want the other team to know who your doctor is. So everybody ended up just swarming around the person, everybody touched them, and then you disperse again. But then once your doctor gets out, then you can't heal anybody anymore. So it becomes really obvious who the doctor was when
And when you play Dr. Dodgeball, the catch rule you don't use. Like, you can't bring someone back in with a catch.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And there were other ones too, other rules. Maybe it was the same as Dr. Dodgeball, but where you set up a cone or something and then you put the ball on the cone, and if you knock or was that how you...
There was one variation we played where if you knocked over a cone at the back, you could, like, bring your whole team back in.
Right, because when they get tagged, they go into a jail instead of having
Yeah.
to, like, freeze or whatever.
Right. That was like a Hail Mary kind
Mhm.
of thing. I have really fond memories of playing dodgeball in our neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
My only thing is I just don't know. We were also lucky that we had a ton of balls.
Also
Like-
true.
Yeah.
I don't know how easy this game is to play compared to a lot of these other games. And I don't know, everyone obviously knows how to play dodgeball. I just don't know how popular it was as a yard game. And this might fit more heavily on the gym game
That's
side
true.
of things than the yard game.
That's true. This is
Yeah, I for one never played dodgeball. I grew up in a neighborhood with a lot of kids, so like my sisters, me, then we had our neighbors Matt, Will, Maria, Zach. We had a good crew. We never played dodgeball. I don't know, now I'm not totally sure why. I guess probably had a lot to do with the balls.
Yeah, that's key.
You know those balls that you get in like bowling alley vending machines that are
Yeah.
like they feel exactly like a kickball, but they're probably like a third of the size. Those are the perfect dodgeball balls, and we had a lot of those.
Yeah.
And I think that really contributed to it.
Yeah, this one's definitely negotiable. I think it needs to be on the list.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think especially because it's so like relevant in gym class and like it feels like it gets brought up in every portrayal of an elementary school kid's life in any TV show or any movie ever.
Absolutely.
I think that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're getting a little long. The good news is I don't think that there's going to be too much tinkering with this list. I like it pretty well. It's pretty good right now.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go through what you were thinking of, Mike, of things that aren't on here right now.
All right. Do you want to do a recap real quick?
Yeah, let's recap real quick.
Okay, number 10, we have tag. 9, kick the can. 8, ghost in the graveyard and sardines. 7, 500. 6, pickle. 5, kickball. 4, lightning, horse. 3, foursquare. 2, capture the flag. And 1, dodgeball.
All right, so a couple that I'm thinking about, I think home run derby should warrant serious consideration. At least in my neighborhood, home run derby was huge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, part of it had to do with the fact that I loved home run derbies because I was really good at home run derbies. So I skewed towards the things I enjoyed because I was good at them. Home run derby was huge. And also just the variability. Like sometimes we would do a golf ball with a tennis racket because you could hit that shit like 400
Dangerous.
feet. Even as a little kid, you crank that baby. Like there was so many different ways you could do it. Another one that I loved, it wasn't so much a home game, though occasionally it was, and we get in trouble because we use a garage, was off the wall. So, off the wall is just when you throw the ball at the wall, and, you know, if you catch it in the air, the person's out, you have to run to the wall, if you drop it, it's like a whole thing. That was a great game, really simple, you just needed a tennis ball and a wall. Wasn't totally a home game, but we played it sometimes we'd get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, do you remember playing?
Yes,
I had this
I
on my
do.
list too.
I absolutely do.
Mike and Dylan and I played a lot of racquetball in college, and then we realized that a racquetball court and a racquetball are the perfect ingredients to play wall ball.
True.
So we would end up playing wall ball on a racquetball court.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
we didn't play this. This game is kind of hard to play because you just need a good wall and like
Yeah.
concrete in front of it to do it effectively, usually.
Yeah.
But it's a great game. It was on my list too.
Two others. Street hockey. I loved street hockey. That was one that I thought was different enough, at least in the way my friends and I played it, because you use a ball instead of a puck. Every
True.
once in a while, you'd use a puck. I have a very distinct memory of there were two types of street hockey pucks. One were these really, really light rubber ones that would sort of saucer when you shot them. The other were these rock freaking hard pucks that, at least in Massachusetts in October, really, really hurt when you got hit with them. Like,
Yes.
hurt a lot. They were like a rock, and they were frozen, and your skin was cold. Ugh. But street hockey was a blast.
I remember there were the little orange, like just the regular orange pucks, but then there were also the variations where they had like the actual rollers in them, like almost
Yeah.
like ball bearings that let them roll across the ground.
Yeah.
I think street hockey is different enough from real hockey because the fact that you are on your feet and not on like, well, I don't know, did you guys play in skates or on your feet?
We would occasionally play in skates, but I thought it was way more fun on your feet. Because it was really hard to shoot. It was really hard to shoot in the rollerblades.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think that playing in your feet really makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And I also think the novelty of having to move the net every time
Yeah.
a car comes.
That's what I was going to say.
Yes.
Car!
Yeah, car!
That act right there, I think is
enough.
enough to actually vault this pretty high on this list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially because it always makes me think of Wayne's World.
Yes.
Game on! I didn't play organized hockey as a youth, but I played a lot of street hockey with my friend Austin.
That's true. Yeah.
And very, very, very fond memories of it. I think it belongs on here somewhere.
Yeah, that's fair.
Same.
I have a lot less of experience with it, but I recognize why it should be on here for sure.
Yeah. All right, and my last one, and this one has to be on the list, and it has to be high, because it was so definitive in my childhood, and I think for a lot of people. Kyle, you and I have played it at my house, and I actually wrote my college essay about this, wiffle ball.
Oh.
Wiffle ball has to be on this list, and it has to be high. So a lot of people play wiffle ball where you're like, you have a little lawn chair, and like you lob it at the lawn chair, and that's the strike zone. That was not how wiffle ball was played at my house. Wiffle ball at my house is like you throw as much junk as you possibly can. We had a pitchback that my dad strung some string into and then spray painted for a strike zone. And like, you strike people's asses out. It was no mercy. There were bases. Like, I remember one of my fondest childhood memories now was running to first base at my childhood home. First base was a pine tree. And so, like, first base was a pine tree. Second base was like a random spot in the middle of the driveway. And third base was like a little patch of mulch. And I ran to first base, and you had to grab the pine tree as proof that you were on the base. And apparently I shook a whole hive of bees loose. They got stung like 30 times.
Oh my god. No.
But my childhood, wiffle ball home run derbies were a blast. Legit games. My dad used to pitch for us, so he'd come out and be like a pitcher only. And then when we got good enough to throw our own junk, wiffle ball is definitive in my childhood.
Some of my fondest memories as an adult are playing wiffle ball at your place, Mike. Like, it's really fun to play.
So much fun.
I think what you just said, and we kind of alluded to this earlier with home run derby, what's so cool about yard baseball is that the bases are so arbitrary and are so unique. Random. So unique to a given yard. It's a tree or a particular sidewalk square or whatever. And like the home run things, it could be an actual fence to someone else's yard or it could just be in the street or like you'd have to set something up. I think that's one thing that's cool about baseball played professionally is that there still are arbitrary distances for home runs.
True.
Which is unique to that sport.
There was that little hill at the Astros. Like, a random hill in the middle of the outfield.
Yep.
And that to me is why...
If you're a Yankee, you only have to hit the ball like 80 feet to hit a home.
That's why stupid Brett Gardner is the worst. Whatever. We'll move on. But that's why backyard baseball was so great. That's why, I mean the video game. Like, you played in that alley. You played in that really standard field. You played in like... there's like the sand lot. There was one where you could play in the beach, I think. Mm-hmm. Like, that was what was so fun as a kid, was you could just play anywhere. Anything was a base. The distances were weird. Ugh.
I totally agree. We have a lot of baseball ones on here, so we might have to do some combining or something, but I really like the pick of wiffle ball, and I think it's different enough from some of the other ones that we talked about. All of my honorable mentions were basically the same as yours. The only one I would like to throw on here is a catch-all for games that are unique to a particular group that no one else ever played. Like, for instance, my friend Cody told me about a game once where he and his dad and his brothers would, like, set up a garbage can and start like 100 feet away and kind of golf style would like throw a baseball and hit it with a baseball bat and see how long they could take to like hit the trash can or like a tree or like just games. Or we used to do the same.
I like this too.
We used to do a thing with a frisbee where it was the same game. Like how many throws does it take for you to, it's basically golf, but like I think every home or like every group of kids has a game that was unique to their neighborhood and maybe was a result of like a unique feature of their street or their house or something that only you played and it wouldn't fit on this list as it is, but as a catch-all for unique yard games that are specific to your neighborhood, I think there's a place for it.
I think in the spirit of The Office, we should call it Flonkerton. That is so perfect, Kyle. Because that reminds me, a lot of this reminds me of the Rocket Power. Like the platonic ideal of the Capture the Flag game is the Capture the Flag game they played on that. And for this one, it's when Otto makes all these weird rules about like banking a croquet ball off of like a curb, and it's got to roll around a certain amount of times and go into the storm drain, and like that's how this stuff gets born.
Exactly. And that's how all these games were born in the first place, I think. Just like kind of tooling around and trying to find something to do with a couple of people nearby.
That's why a lot of the things were left off of this list specifically for that reason. A lot of things that we played as a group that nobody else would even understand or recognize or ever have played. So I think that that's a great idea, is to put that on there.
Yeah. The one that comes to mind is when we would all jump on the trampoline and like time it so that one person would jump, shoot like really high up.
And you could steal each other's bounces by like faking a jump. And the other one that it makes me think of is we used to play tip, which was you line up in a line, and the person in the front would start it, and they would throw up a football tip it to the person behind them, and you would have to tip it all in a line.
Yeah.
And get it to the last person without dropping.
Keep the ball
Perfect
in the air. We played something like that.
Yeah.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're running short on time, so let's get into this and we'll figure it out. I think, Mike, you and I are serious about street hockey.
Yeah.
Home run derby, wiffle ball.
Yeah, we can call that one thing, I think. Like wiffle ball derby kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Yep. And then the last one is what we just talked about, like unique yard games.
Mm-hmm.
Flonkerton.
Yes.
So that's 3 we want on.
Yep.
Can you think of 3 that we can realistically pull off here?
Let's talk about the vulnerable ones, maybe.
I think pickle can kind of go into this catch-all baseball games.
True.
So I think that's an opportunity for us.
I agree.
Especially because the ones that we're putting on are going to be kind of higher up on the list.
Yeah.
And if anything, I think that pickle should be higher.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that that's fair. It boosts it up a little bit higher than it is right now.
I think another opportunity is to lump Kick the Can in with Ghosts in the Graveyard and Sardines.
Yeah.
Because it's the same style of hide and run kind of games.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I agree. And then the other one, I think it's not like meant to be a hot take, but I think that kickball or dodgeball, one of those, I think we should keep one of them at least.
Mm-hmm.
They're more like playground games to me, at least, because we just didn't have the space for that.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't have enough contiguous space to play one of those games.
Yeah. I think
Dodgeball, we didn't have enough balls, but kickball was more like...
I think that I recognize that dodgeball might have been a selfish pick for number 1. So I think I'm cool with... This might be the biggest jump in top 10 history, but I honestly, recognizing... What are you going to say, Kyle?
I think we're on the same exact page. I think what happened with dodgeball here is that this is just for us one of those. It's our Flonkerton.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that a compromise, so that we're not saying we're taking our number 1 and taking it completely off the list. I think a good compromise is to put Flonkerton very high on this list.
I think Flonkerton should be number 1. I think that's because that is the essence of childhood and like growing up is you just get to do whatever the hell you want to do.
That's I think good compromise because then technically my number 1 stays number 1.
Yeah.
And everyone's happy.
Yes. Okay, great idea.
So let's do this. So Flonkerton, number 1.
Yep.
That's how you spell it, I've decided.
Yep.
I like Capture the Flag at 2.
I think that needs to stay where it is.
After that, we've got some work to do. So here's not a hot take maybe. I actually think Tag deserves to go
higher.
A lot higher than it is currently.
Yeah.
Like maybe even top 3 because
I think Tag should be right here. Tag is the godfather of most of these.
I think it's easily
so
the
classic.
simplest of any of these games.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the Beatles. The rest of this is pop music. That's the Beatles. The Beatles.
Right. That's fair. And then next, I think that we should maybe think about Mike's passion and your passion for street hockey, maybe. I think it depends. Either that goes up high or the lump of baseball games.
I think baseball games is number 4.
Okay.
Yep.
I think Foursquare is a good number 5.
I do too.
Yeah.
Another classic.
Yep.
Foursquare. Okay, so are we keeping... So since we lumped dodgeball in with Flonkerton, I think we're deciding we're keeping kickball. But I actually think kickball belongs
lower on the
like
list.
A street hockey.
Yeah. I think street hockey feels like it's the next play.
Yeah. 500, I think, because it is more than just a baseball. Like, I don't think it groups in with those other ones.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I actually like it in the spot it is now. How do you guys feel about 500 and then...
I think that the lump of Ghost in the Graveyard, Sardines, and Kick the Can could be at 9 or 10.
Oh, we forgot about Lightning, though. And basketball games are kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
What about Lightning / Horse above 500?
I think that's fair.
So.
And then 500.
Okay, and then that brings us to 9 and 10, which the spots to fill there are run and hide games. And what's our last one, then? Kickball.
Kickball.
Yeah. That feels appropriate.
That covers everything, right?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna call it Ghost in the Graveyard, but it's run and hide games.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then kickball.
Kickball.
Whew, that was...
Wow.
I think that's probably the fastest we've ever done a ranking.
Because we didn't.
But it's because it felt so right.
Yeah, I think we did a really good job setting that up in the first place.
Yeah.
Are we all happy with this list?
I am extremely happy with this list.
I think we've got a list, baby.
Yeah.
Aaron, how would you feel about rattling off our top 10 outdoor neighborhood childhood games?
I would love to. All right. Coming in number 10, we have kickball. Number 9, run and hide games, aka Ghost in the Graveyard, Sardines, Kick the Can. At number 8, we have 500. At 7, we have lightning, horse, basketball games. Number 6, we have street hockey. 5, Foursquare. 4, we have baseball games, including pickle, home run derby, wiffle ball. Coming in number 3, we have tag. Number 2, capture the flag. And number 1, everybody's favorite game, Flonkerton. And I think that'll do it.
Great
Top
work.
notch, Aaron.
Yeah, great work, Erin. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This has been much fun.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you on again.
Yeah.
Until next time. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Adios.
Bye.
Peace.
Alrighty, friends. That was our top 10 for this week, but now we'd love to hear your top 10. So please check us out on all of our available social media outlets, traditional outlets, whatever outlets we have. Check us out on Twitter at top10km. That's all spelled out, top10km. Our email, top10km, spelled the same way, at gmail.com, or our site, top10km.podbean.com. All forms of communication accepted, except for serial killer notes. Please don't send us any of those.
If you like the pod, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never have to miss an episode of Top 10 ever again. If you didn't like it, please tell us why. We'll try to make the show better. Our theme music was composed by Kevin MacLeod, and our artwork was created by Erin Sant. You can check out her stuff at Sant Design on Instagram.
Alrighty, goons. We'll see you next week.